Hello and welcome to the Warwick Classics and AG Leventis Ancient Worlds Day 2021 on the theme of expanding horizons. My name is Giles Penman, a part-time PhD student at the University of Warwick in the Classics department, and I'm jointly supervised by the Classics department and the History department. And my research broadly looks at the use of Roman and ancient Greek imagery on the civil and cultural artifacts of the First World War, including ceramics, printed media, medals, and other artifacts. Now today I will be talking about the representation of provinces on Roman coins and their reception in later British culture. In particular, the figure of Britannia, who is the spiritual personification of the spirit of the British nation. Now, to begin with, I just want to introduce coins as a tool of communication in the Roman world to provide a little context. So coins were a very major tool of communication for the state in the pre-industrial world, since they encapsulated vital economic and symbolic values and were endorsed by the state and produced on an immense scale, like no other form of material culture. And so in the Roman world, in the central mint, the triumviri monetalis, the three annually elected magistrates, were responsible for the production of new coins and choosing their designs. In the imperial period, the constitution of the central mint is less clear. The position of the triumviri monetalis survived until at least the Severan period, but by the 2nd century AD, a procurator monetae administered the central mint, but a magistrate was responsible for the total mint output. Republican coins show the trajectory of coin design from the advertisement of the Roman state to commemoration of individual aristocrats. At first, the Roman coins were indistinguishable from themes of Greek coins. But by 211 BC, with the advent of the denarius that you can see on the left-hand side there, the money was identified by abbreviations. The self-assertion of moneyers began to appear in the first half of the 2nd century BC. A big change in 136 BC occurred when Tiberius Veturius minted a denarius showing Mars, not Roma, and an oath-taking scene. This marked a new phase in the typology of Roman coinage because for the first time the denarius was transmitting messages from one central family rather than the central state. And so you can see on the right there a denarius minted by Marcus Metellus. And Roman coin designs increasingly promoted the moneyer's family. Designs were constantly changing because of electoral competition and the use of coinage medium to memorialize status. And so families were very much using these coins to promote themselves for elections, to try and win them. So these were vote-winning tools, as well as to try and provide a permanent memorial to their achievements. The political use of coinage intensified over the 1st century BC, focusing on individual politicians and their achievements. A watershed moment came when Julius Caesar minted a denarius in 44 BC with symbols alluding to his political position, world domination, and virtues. And significantly, Caesar was the first person living to place his portrait on the obverse of a Roman coin. And so other examples of this include those on this slide, where Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus minted an aureus in 71 BC, which you can see on the left there, indicating his political position as proconsul, and also trumpeting his victories in Africa, particularly with the use of a laurel wreath and the triumphal chariot that he's driving on the reverse, this is vital for understanding how coins were used in the imperial period, which continued this trend of using coins to demonstrate political and military achievements. But also coins were used to communicate messages in the imperial period, and in particular messages about provinces. Now, this is what I want to focus on in my presentation to you today. The use of coins to project political messages about newly acquired and also well-established provinces of the Roman world. Provinces appear more rarely as personifications on coins, but can reveal the relationship which Roman emperors had or wished to have with the provinces that constituted the Roman Empire. As the Roman world expanded under Augustus and the early Roman emperors, the emperors sent in armies of invasion and annexed more territory into the Roman Empire. The emperors, beginning with Augustus, proudly displayed these territorial gains on public media, such as coins. And so the coin on the left of Octavian depicts a legend, Aegyptu captor with a crocodile. Now this shows very clearly that Octavian is promoting his capture of the province of Egypt, this is clearly a very important gain for him. But also it's important to recognize that Egypt is not represented by a human being, but rather by a crocodile. Now this suggests that Rome does not consider the province and its people to be on equal footing with the Roman world, but rather considers them to be uncivilized and somewhat lacking in the sophistication of the Roman world. And similarly, later on, when he became Augustus, he captured Armenia, and this equally shows that Augustus and the Roman world does not consider Armenia to be a civilized power. Indeed, it considers it dehumanizes Armenia and its people by showing it as a bull, as a sacrificial bull that we see here, with victory cutting its throat. So it shows the rest of the people in Rome, in particular the elites who would have been using the aureus, the gold coin, more frequently than others, that this is a province taken by the sword, taken by a significant military invasion, which resulted in victory for the Roman world. It is then apparent later on as well in the Roman imperial period, where Vespasian appears, and shows the defeat of the Jewish revolt in AD 70, after the Jewish War of AD 66 to 69. Judea is shown here as a person, but sitting in defeat, and in an attitude of mourning for its dead. Again, this is not showing the power of Judea on equal footing with Rome at all, but very much in a position of subjection and of subjection to the Roman state. But then we have a very different attitude shown by Trajan on the right here, on his Aureus, where he's shown to be very caring to the province of Italy, and in particular to women and children, part of his general presentation as a virtuous emperor who cares for his people. So we can see a shift in the late 1st century and early 2nd century towards provinces as areas of operation that the state needs to care for and needs to have a better, more human relationship with. And so again, with the ass of Trajan, it shows a defeated enemy after after Trajan invaded with an army and defeated Decebalus and the Dacians in AD 101-2, annexing Dacia into the Roman Empire, a victory celebrated on Trajan's column. So you can see Dacia on the reverse, seated again in an attitude of mourning, like Judea, on a shield and a pile of arms before a Roman trophy, a sign of Rome, very much Roman victory. But then I think it's useful then to compare this to the Cistercius, where you see that Dacia is now a rich province, rich in natural resources, especially the gold mines in Transylvania and the grain from the province held by Rome, which is symbolized by an eagle underlined by the Provincia legend. It is very much now a province of Rome that is that has many riches to offer the Roman state. I think that's something then important to remember, that there is this change in attitudes towards the province, that it goes from being defeated to being prosperous in a relatively short period of time, at least in its presentation on Roman coinage. We see then here with Hadrian in Egypt in AD 130. He's showing that he very much cares for the province. Indeed, he restored. He went to Egypt in AD 130, restored Pompey's temple, and founded Antinopolis in honor of Antinous, his beloved companion after his death during a trip down the Nile, which is possibly why Egypt appears in his provincial coin series. So Hadrian is very much trying to trumpet the fact that he cares for the province. And similarly, another coin from that same coin series is the Cistercius, showing Hadrian's relationship with Cilicia. Hadrian establishes and maintains a strong personal relationship, but also a religious connection here, because we can see that he's holding a patera and a vexillum before with an altar between, so he's engaging in religious rites together with natives of the province and sacrificing to the gods. So he's trying to build this relationship with them. We also see that Hadrian tries to establish the same kind of relationship with Mauritania, and we can see this with the Cistercius and the ass here. And so on the letter Celsius on the left here shows a Mauritanian native with a horse, and this very much shows that Mauritanians were skilled horsemen, and then so very much says something about the character of the province. But then on the right here, the ass shows Hadrian in the same way as with Cilicia, maintaining this religious relationship with the province, showing that he wishes to establish a strong personal and religious connection with them. This demonstrates something very much about Hadrian's character, that he wished to maintain good reciprocal relationships with the provinces. This then continues with his presentation of an ass in Africa, where it shows that he is he's demonstrating the province's riches on the ass on the left, where it shows the elephant scalp and baskets of corn and fruit. On the reverse, he's very much showing that this province has a lot to offer the Roman world. And then on the right, the Aureus Restitutori Africae is the legend on the reverse, and he's holding the hand of a kneeling figure of Africa, the personification, and raising that personification up. So it's important to see that Hadrian is recognizing Africa as a human, civilized province that he wishes to metaphorically and physically raise up and increase their prospects and make them better. So again, establishing a strong relationship with the province. Now this then continues with Achaia and Gallii, the Aureus and Denarius here, all part of the same coin series of Hadrian. And so he's raising them up. He's trying to he's saying to them that he's willing to improve the lot of the province and help them to build a strong relationship with the central state of the Roman world. And this says a lot about his character, as an emperor. But then there is a change with Antoninus Pius, and so here we see a very different relationship, with the provinces, with his provincial coin series. They show that the provinces owed him loyalty and fealty, very different from the benign benefactor of Hadrian. And so the coin of Africa on the left here shows that the province with a cornucopia and holding a crown. This very much shows that the province has a lot to offer Antoninus Pius and the Roman state itself. There's no reciprocal relationship here. The crown, the symbol of authority, shows the fealty owed by the state, that they owe him a lot as an emperor, not that he owes them anything. And this is similarly repeated on the coin of Dacia on the right, that they owe him respect and a sense of loyalty. And again, this is repeated on coins of Mauritania and Parthia. It's the same idea of holding out the crown, showing that they owe him loyalty. He doesn't owe them anything, which is very, again, as I say, very different from what Hadrian implied with his coins that he was willing to help them and aid them and provide for the benefaction of and prosperity of the provinces.